You think you know South Carolina? Sandy beaches and sweet tea? Think again. This state hides nuclear bombs, ghost towns underwater, and cryptid monsters in swamps. From pirate blockades to helicopter factories, South Carolina is absolutely unhinged. Let's count down 50 wild facts that prove the Palmetto State is America's most unpredictable place. Coming in at number 50 is something that might blow your mind. South Carolina is the only state in America that builds Boeing Dreamliners. These massive jets are assembled right there in Charleston, rolling off the line to fly passengers worldwide. It's one of the most advanced manufacturing facilities on Earth. Boeing picked Charleston because of the skilled workforce and coastal access for shipping parts. Every time you board a Dreamliner, there's a decent chance it was born in South Carolina. The factory employs thousands and pumps billions into the state economy. Not bad for a place people think is just beaches. At number 49, we've got freedom taken to the extreme. South Carolina has no helmet law for motorcyclists over 21. You can ride without a helmet legally. Only 2 other states in America allow this. The wind in your hair comes with serious risk though, because head injuries don't care about state laws. Supporters say it's about personal freedom and individual choice. Critics point to the increased medical costs and preventable deaths. Either way, you'll see riders cruising Highway 17 with nothing but sunglasses protecting their heads. It's Wild West rules on 2 wheels, and the state is fine with that gamble on life. Number 48 brings us to something truly ancient. Angel oak on Johns Island has been alive for over 400 years. This massive tree provides 17,000 square feet of shade. Think about that. This oak was standing before America existed, watching centuries pass beneath its branches while providing shelter to countless generations. The branches stretch out so far they need cables to hold them up now. People come from everywhere to stand under this living monument. It survived hurricanes, wars, and development. Angel oak represents nature's incredible resilience and reminds us that some things are bigger than human timelines. The tree has stories nobody will ever know. Coming in at number 47 is the historical bombshell. South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union. They kicked off the entire Civil War. December 20th, 1860. They voted to leave, and everything that followed changed America forever. One state's decision led to 600,000 deaths and the end of slavery. The secession was driven by wealthy plantation owners, terrified of losing their enslaved workforce. They convinced poor white farmers to fight for a cause that only benefited the rich. South Carolina's choice triggered a domino effect across the South. Being first in secession is nothing to brag about, but it defines the state's rebellious streak. At number 46, we see the consequences. The state capital, Columbia, was purposely burned by Sherman's army during the Civil War. 84 city blocks were destroyed in a calculated act of total war. The flames consumed homes, businesses, and government buildings. Sherman wanted to punish the birthplace of secession, and he made sure they'd never forget. The burning of Columbia remains controversial today. Some say it was military necessity, others call it war crime. Either way, the city was left in ashes and had to rebuild from nothing. You can still find buildings with burn marks if you know where to look. History doesn't fade easily when it's written in fire. Number 45 gets creepy fast. Lake Jocassee contains an entire town underwater. A complete ghost town sits beneath the surface. When they created the lake for a hydroelectric project, they flooded the valley and everything in it. Now divers explore submerged buildings, streets, and cemeteries. It's like Atlantis, but in South Carolina mountains. The town was called Jocassee Valley before it drowned. Families were forced to relocate and watch their homes disappear under rising water. Some say you can still see structures on clear days when the water level drops. Scuba divers report eerie feelings swimming through abandoned living rooms. The lake keeps its secrets cold and dark. At number 44, things get competitive. South Carolina produces more peaches than Georgia in some years. Yes, you heard that right. Georgia is the peach state, but South Carolina actually grows more. The climate and soil in areas like the Ridge are perfect for peach cultivation. Georgia has the nickname, but South Carolina has the fruit. This fact drives Georgians absolutely crazy. They built their entire identity around peaches while their neighbor quietly outproduces them. South Carolina farmers just keep planting more trees and harvesting sweeter crops. It's the ultimate underdog story. Sometimes the quietest competitor wins, and South Carolina peach growers know it. They don't need a fancy nickname. Coming in at number 43 is pure nightmare fuel. The lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp is a local cryptid legend from the 1980s. Witnesses described a 7-foot-tall reptilian creature. It supposedly attacked cars and left 3-toed footprints. The sightings terrified locals and made national news. Nobody could explain what people saw. The first report came from a teenager who said the creature jumped on his car and damaged it. Police found scratches and bite marks that couldn't be explained away easily. More sightings followed, each one adding to the legend. Skeptics say it was mass hysteria or a hoax. Believers say something still lurks in that swamp. At number 42, we've got surprising tourism numbers. Myrtle Beach gets more visitors annually than Hawaii. Over 20 million tourists flood the Grand Strand every year. That's more people than the entire population of many states. The beaches, golf courses, and attractions create an unstoppable vacation magnet. Hawaii might be paradise, but Myrtle Beach is accessible. The sheer volume of humanity descending on Myrtle Beach each summer is staggering. Hotels pack in families from all over the country. Traffic becomes a nightmare and restaurants overflow constantly. But the money keeps flowing and the city keeps growing. It's proof that you don't need tropical islands when you've got affordable beachfront and mini-golf. Number 41 reveals absurd old laws. South Carolina once required all dance halls to pay a fee. No dancing without a license, literally. This weird regulation tried to control nightlife and entertainment. Dance hall owners had to register and pay the state for the privilege of letting people move to music. Freedom has limits, apparently. The law reflected religious and moral concerns about dancing, leading to improper behavior. Authorities wanted to monitor and tax what they considered potentially sinful activity. Eventually, the law was repealed because it was ridiculous and unenforceable. But for years, South Carolina basically said dancing requires government permission. That's peak bureaucratic overreach. At number 40, we're talking golf heaven. South Carolina has the most golf courses per capita on the East Coast. The mild climate means year-round golfing. Myrtle Beach alone has over 90 courses within a 30-mile radius. Retirees and golf enthusiasts flock here because the options are endless and the prices are reasonable. Every skill level finds a course that fits. From championship designs to beginner-friendly layouts, South Carolina caters to golfers obsessively. The industry generates billions in revenue and employs tens of thousands. Some people plan entire vacations around hitting as many courses as possible. It's golf culture on steroids, and the state embraces it completely. Coming in at number 39 is powerful cultural preservation. The Gullah Geechee people maintain the most direct cultural connection to West Africa of any African American community. Their language, food, crafts, and traditions survived centuries remarkably intact. They live primarily on the Sea Islands and coastal areas, keeping heritage alive against enormous pressure to assimilate. The Gullah language is a Creole mixing English with various West African languages. Sweetgrass basket weaving, rice cultivation techniques, and spiritual practices all trace directly back to Africa. This community represents living history that most of America has forgotten or erased. Their resilience and cultural pride deserve recognition. South Carolina's identity is incomplete without acknowledging Gullah Geechee contributions. Number 38 takes us to where it all started. Fort Sumter is where the first shots of the Civil War were fired. April 12, 1861, Confederate forces bombarded the Union garrison. The battle lasted 34 hours, and nobody died from combat, but it ignited 4 years of America's bloodiest war. The fort still stands in Charleston Harbor as a national monument. You can visit the exact spot where brother turned against brother and the nation split apart. Tourists walk the same grounds where soldiers faced impossible choices. Fort Sumter represents the moment America broke, and South Carolina pulled the trigger that started everything. At number 37, we discover botanical rarity. The Venus flytrap is native to only a tiny region including coastal South Carolina. This carnivorous plant exists nowhere else on Earth naturally. It evolved to trap and digest insects because the soil lacks nutrients. The specialized habitat requirements mean Venus flytraps are incredibly vulnerable to extinction in the wild. People recognize Venus flytraps from stores and science classes, but few realize how rare they actually are. Poaching and habitat destruction threaten the remaining wild populations. South Carolina shares this unique species with a small part of North Carolina. It's a reminder that some of Earth's strangest life forms survive in the tiniest spaces. Coming in at number 36 is staggering wealth. Charleston was America's wealthiest city before the Civil War. Rice, indigo, and cotton made plantation owners obscenely rich. The port bustled with ships carrying goods and enslaved people. Grand mansions lined the streets, built on the backs of human suffering. The wealth was enormous, but the cost was unconscionable. That prosperity depended entirely on slavery and couldn't survive without it. When the war ended and slavery was abolished, Charleston's economy collapsed. The beautiful architecture remains as monuments to a shameful past. Walking through historic Charleston means confronting the contradiction of gorgeous buildings funded by horrific cruelty. Beauty and evil coexisted in the same space. At number 35, we learn about the state tree. The palmetto gave South Carolina its nickname after palmetto logs at Fort Moultrie withstood British cannonballs during the Revolutionary War. The spongy wood absorbed the impact instead of shattering. This defensive success made the palmetto a symbol of resilience and resistance. The state proudly adopted it as their emblem. The palmetto appears on the state flag alongside the crescent moon. It represents South Carolina's fighting spirit and ability to endure attacks. Those logs literally saved Charleston from British invasion. Something as simple as the right kind of tree changed military history. Now palmettos grow everywhere, as a reminder that strength comes in unexpected forms. Number 34 showcases artistic achievement. Brook Green Gardens has the largest collection of American figurative sculpture in the world. Over 2,000 works are displayed across the grounds. The gardens combine art, history, and nature into something magnificent. Archer and Anna Huntington created this cultural treasure in the 1930s on a former rice plantation. Visitors wander through gardens encountering bronze statues at every turn. The collection focuses on realistic human and animal forms, rather than abstract art. It's an outdoor museum where Spanish moss drapes over masterpieces. Brook Green preserves American sculpture history, while providing a peaceful escape. Few people realize South Carolina holds this caliber of artistic legacy. At number 33, we've got naval warfare. South Carolina briefly had its own navy during the Revolutionary War, and captured multiple British ships. Before independence was even certain, the state funded privateers and warships. These vessels harassed British trade and defended the coastline. It was a risky gamble that paid off with captured cargo and damaged enemy morale. Running a state navy required resources South Carolina barely had, but they did it anyway. The captured ships provided weapons, supplies, and proof that the British weren't invincible. This aggressive maritime strategy showed South Carolina's commitment to independence. They didn't wait for the Continental Navy to protect them. They built their own fleet and took the fight directly to British ships. Coming in at number 32 is Hollywood history. The Big Chill was filmed in Beaufort, and the town became a filming hotspot. The beautiful antebellum architecture and southern charm attract production companies constantly. Forrest Gump, The Prince of Tides, and dozens more movies used Beaufort as a backdrop. The town basically became an outdoor film studio. Filming brings money and attention but also disrupts daily life. Residents deal with closed streets and film crews regularly. Some love the excitement while others resent the intrusion. Either way, Beaufort's appearance in major films put the town on the map. It's proof that South Carolina scenery sells on the big screen. At number 31, things get dangerous. There are more than 50 species of snakes in South Carolina, including 6 venomous ones. Copperheads, cottonmouths, and rattlesnakes all call the state home. You can encounter deadly snakes in your backyard, on hiking trails, or near water. Most are harmless, but you never know what you're dealing with until it's too late. The warm climate and diverse habitats create perfect snake territory. People learn to watch where they step and never reach into dark spaces. Snake bites send people to the hospital every year, though deaths are rare with modern treatment. Living in South Carolina means accepting that reptiles own the outdoors. Respect the wildlife or face the consequences. Number 30 brings us to towering trees. Congaree National Park contains some of the tallest trees in the eastern United States. Champion trees soar over 150 feet into the canopy. These old-growth forests survived because the swampy ground made logging too difficult. Now they stand as living monuments to what American forests once looked like. Walking through Congaree feels like entering a cathedral made of wood and leaves. The trees create their own ecosystem supporting countless species. Spanish moss hangs from branches and the boardwalk trails let you explore without destroying the fragile environment. It's wilderness preserved by accident that became a national treasure. South Carolina protects giants that predate the nation. At number 29, we dive into military innovation. The Hunley was the first submarine to sink an enemy ship in combat. This Confederate vessel operated in Charleston Harbor during the Civil War. It successfully attacked and destroyed a Union blockade ship in 1864. Then it sank with all hands aboard, becoming a tomb and a legend. The Hunley disappeared for over a century before being discovered and raised from the ocean floor. Inside were the remains of the crew, still at their stations. The submarine represented incredible engineering for the time, but also desperation. South Carolina's innovation came from necessity during war. The Hunley proved submarines could work, but at a terrible human cost. Coming in at number 28 is healthcare control. South Carolina requires a certificate of need for new hospitals. The government decides if your area needs medical facilities. Supporters say it prevents unnecessary healthcare spending. Critics argue it limits competition and keeps prices high. Either way, you can't just build a hospital because you want to. This regulation affects where people can access care and how many options they have. Rural areas might get denied new facilities while hospitals in cities face no competition. It's controversial health policy that puts bureaucrats between doctors and patients. South Carolina chose market control over market freedom in healthcare. The debate over whether that helps or hurts continues. At number 27, we meet the Heat Master. The Carolina Reaper is the world's hottest pepper, and it was bred in South Carolina by Smokin' Ed Curry. This pepper averages over 1.5 million Scoville units. Eating one is like chemical warfare in your mouth. People film themselves attempting the challenge and immediately regret everything. Ed Curry spent years crossbreeding peppers to create the ultimate heat experience. The Carolina Reaper dethroned previous record holders and claimed the crown. It's shaped like a scorpion tail and tastes like burning regret. South Carolina gave the world extreme spice that makes grown adults cry. Some innovations are meant to hurt, and this pepper delivers. Number 26 claims an invention. Pawleys Island says they invented the rope hammock in the 1880s. A riverboat captain supposedly created the design for better sleeping comfort during hot southern summers. The woven rope allowed air circulation while providing support. True or not, Pawleys Island hammocks became famous and are still made there today. The original hammock shop still operates selling handmade rope hammocks. Tourists buy them as authentic South Carolina souvenirs. Whether Pawleys truly invented the design is debatable, but they perfected it and built an industry. Sometimes claiming to be first matters less than doing it best. The hammocks remain a symbol of coastal relaxation. At number 25, the danger gets real. South Carolina has more than 2,000 alligators per county in some coastal areas. These prehistoric predators are everywhere near water. They lurk in ponds, rivers, marshes, and even golf course water hazards. People learn to assume every body of water contains gators, because it probably does. Alligator attacks happen regularly, though deaths are rare. The reptiles have been here far longer than humans, and they're not leaving. Signs warn against swimming or feeding them, but tourists ignore the warnings constantly. Living with thousands of gators per county means constant vigilance. South Carolina shares its lowlands with apex predators, who fear nothing. Coming in at number 24 is Revolutionary War significance. The Battle of Kings Mountain was called the turning point of the American Revolution by Thomas Jefferson himself. Patriot militia defeated a Loyalist force in October 1780. The victory boosted morale and proved the British could be beaten. South Carolina's backcountry fighters changed the war's trajectory. The battle was Americans fighting Americans, Patriots versus Loyalists in brutal combat. Neither side showed mercy and the fighting was vicious. When it ended, the Patriot victory shifted momentum in the South. British plans to control the region fell apart. A single battle in the South Carolina wilderness helped secure American independence. History turned on mountain combat. At number 23, we face dark history. South Carolina executed more people by electric chair than any other state from 1912 to 1962. The state embraced capital punishment enthusiastically. The electric chair at the state penitentiary stayed busy for 50 years. South Carolina led the nation in state-sanctioned death. The high execution rate reflected harsh criminal justice attitudes and racial inequality. Black defendants faced death far more often than white ones for similar crimes. The electric chair became a symbol of Southern justice that meant different things for different people. Eventually executions slowed, but the legacy remains. South Carolina killed more of its own citizens than anywhere else. Number 22 reveals religious influence. South Carolina once had mandatory blue laws banning alcohol sales on Sundays. You couldn't buy beer or liquor because it was the Lord's Day. The law lasted until 2004 when it finally changed. For over a century, South Carolina enforced religious restrictions on commerce. People either drove to other states for Sunday alcohol or planned ahead. Restaurants and bars could serve drinks, but stores couldn't sell them. The law felt outdated and ridiculous, but changing it took years of fighting. Religious groups argued against it while businesses wanted the revenue. Eventually, commerce won over tradition, and Sundays opened up. At number 21, we see colorful history. Rainbow Row in Charleston is the longest cluster of Georgian row houses in the United States. 13 colorful homes line the waterfront in pastel shades. They date back to the 1740s and survived wars, hurricanes, and economic collapse. The bright paint job came later to help distinguish the properties. Rainbow Row represents Charleston's architectural heritage and resilience. Each house tells stories of families, fortunes, and survival through centuries. Tourists photograph the colorful facades constantly. The homes are privately owned, but their appearance defines Charleston's postcard image. Simple paint choices created an iconic landmark that draws millions. Beauty endures when communities protect their history. Coming in at number 20 is absolutely terrifying. A live nuclear bomb was accidentally dropped near Florence, South Carolina in 1958. The bomb fell from a B-47 bomber during a training mission. It didn't detonate, but it left a crater 30 feet wide and left everyone shaking. America almost nuked its own state by accident. The conventional explosives in the bomb detonated when it hit the ground, but the nuclear core didn't trigger. If it had gone fully nuclear, Florence and surrounding areas would have been obliterated. The accident exposed how close we came to catastrophe during the Cold War. South Carolina got lucky. One mistake didn't end with a mushroom cloud. At number 19, we've got racing history. The Darlington Raceway is called the track too tough to tame. It hosts NASCAR's annual Throwback Weekend, where teams use retro paint schemes. The unusual egg-shaped oval was built around a minnow pond because the owner refused to pave it. That quirk created one of racing's most challenging tracks. Drivers either love or hate Darlington because it demands perfection. The narrow track and tight turns punish mistakes instantly. Brushing the wall earns you the Darlington stripe, a badge of honor showing you pushed the limits. The Throwback Weekend celebrates NASCAR history with vintage looks and old-school racing. South Carolina keeps racing tradition alive. Number 18 shows explosive development. Hilton Head Island was completely undeveloped until 1956. It was basically wilderness with a few families. Then Charles Fraser created Sea Pines Plantation, and the island transformed into a resort paradise. Now it's packed with golf courses, mansions, and tourists. 60 years erased centuries of isolation. The development brought wealth and tourism, but destroyed the natural environment and displaced Gullah communities. What was once pristine island became manicured resort. The transformation was fast and total. Hilton Head shows how money and development reshape places beyond recognition. The island that existed before is gone forever, replaced by vacation homes and country clubs. At number 17, we confront the darkest statistic. South Carolina had the highest percentage of enslaved people before the Civil War. 57% of the population was enslaved. More than half the people in the state were held in bondage. This staggering number shows how thoroughly slavery defined South Carolina's economy and society. The majority enslaved population created constant fear among white residents. They lived in terror of revolt while perpetuating unspeakable cruelty. The system required violence and dehumanization to maintain. South Carolina's wealth depended on slavery more than almost anywhere in America. The ratio of enslaved to free revealed a society built on oppression. Coming in at number 16 is agricultural uniqueness. South Carolina produces all the tea grown in America at the Charleston Tea Garden. It's the only tea plantation in the United States. The climate and soil allow tea plants to thrive. Every cup of American-grown tea originates from this one South Carolina location. It's a monopoly by geography. The tea garden offers tours showing the entire process from plant to cup. Harvesting machines developed specifically for this plantation trim the tea leaves. The operation is small compared to Asian tea producers, but significant for being the only American option. South Carolina grows something most people think is impossible here. Sometimes location creates unexpected opportunities. At number 15, we meet a legend. Blackbeard the pirate blockaded Charleston Harbor and held the city hostage in 1718. He captured ships and demanded a chest of medicine as ransom. When Charleston tried to refuse, Blackbeard threatened to execute prisoners and destroy the city. They paid up quickly. A pirate literally controlled South Carolina's richest city. So Blackbeard's blockade showed how vulnerable Charleston was despite its wealth. The city couldn't defend against a determined pirate force. Eventually Blackbeard left with his ransom, but the humiliation lasted. South Carolina's most important port was shut down by criminals who made their own rules. The incident proved that no place was truly safe from pirates. Number 14 celebrates local culture. South Carolina's state dance is the shag. This swing dance was born on Ocean Drive in North Myrtle Beach. It developed in beach clubs during the 1940s and 50s. The smooth steps and beach music created a cultural movement. South Carolina made the shag official because it represents coastal identity. Shag dancing brought people together across racial lines when segregation still dominated. The music and moves transcended barriers, even as society stayed divided. Today, shag festivals attract dancers from everywhere. People preserve the tradition and pass it to new generations. South Carolina's official dance is about more than steps. It's about community and cultural pride. At number 13, we celebrate famous faces. Stephen Colbert, Aziz Ansari, Chris Rock, and Chadwick Boseman are all from South Carolina. These entertainers shaped American comedy and film. Colbert's political satire, Rock's stand-up, Ansari's sitcom work, and Boseman's powerful performances all trace back to South Carolina roots. The state produces talent that reaches worldwide audiences. Each of these artists brought South Carolina perspective to their work in different ways. Their success proves creativity thrives everywhere, not just in traditional entertainment centers. Small towns and southern cities produce performers who change culture. South Carolina should take pride in these native sons who made it big while staying connected to their origins. Coming in at number 12 is surprising oceanography. The average coastal water temperature in summer exceeds 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's warmer than most Caribbean beaches. The Gulf Stream current brings tropical warmth to South Carolina shores. Swimming feels like bathwater at peak summer. People expect cold Atlantic water, but get something completely different. The warm water extends the tourism season and makes beaches more appealing. Families with small children appreciate the comfortable temperatures. Marine life from warmer regions sometimes appears because the water suits them. South Carolina's warm coastal waters are a hidden advantage over northern beaches. When the ocean feels like a heated pool, beach days last longer. At number 11, things get weird again. There's a lizard man museum inside a gas station in Bishopville dedicated to the cryptid sightings. The owner embraced the legend and created a tourist attraction. You can fill up your tank and learn about reptilian monster encounters at the same time. It's beautifully absurd and perfectly South Carolina. The museum displays evidence, eyewitness accounts, and lizard man merchandise. Whether you believe or not, the dedication is impressive. A gas station turned cryptid headquarters shows how communities use legends for identity and tourism. Bishopville leaned into the weirdness instead of running from it. Now they're famous for a monster that may not exist. Number 10 introduces sauce wars. South Carolina mustard-based barbecue sauce is unique to the state. Nowhere else in America uses mustard sauce as tradition. While other regions fight over vinegar versus tomato, South Carolina does its own thing. The tangy yellow sauce polarizes people, but locals swear by it. It's barbecue rebellion in condiment form. The mustard sauce reflects German immigrant influence mixing with Southern barbecue culture. The result tastes nothing like Texas or Carolina vinegar styles. Some people love the unique flavor while others can't stand it. Either way, ordering barbecue in South Carolina means trying something different. The sauce wars prove regional food identity runs deep. At number 9, we find meaningful words. The state motto is Dum Spiro Spiro, meaning while I breathe I hope in Latin. South Carolina adopted this motto while rebuilding after the Civil War. It reflects resilience and determination to survive despite catastrophic loss. The words chosen during the darkest time became permanent identity. Hope persists even in ruins. The motto appears on the state seal and official documents. It reminds South Carolinians that as long as they're alive, possibility exists. The choice to emphasize hope during Reconstruction shows strength amid devastation. Whether people live up to these words varies, but the sentiment endures. While I breathe, I hope remains South Carolina's promise to itself. Coming in at number 8 is beautiful decay. Old Sheldon Church ruins in Yemassee have been burned down twice, once in 1779 and again in 1865. The church was never rebuilt. Now the brick walls and columns stand open to the sky, covered in moss and vines. It's hauntingly beautiful and popular for photography and weddings. The ruins represent South Carolina's turbulent history written in architecture. Both times fire destroyed the church. The community chose to leave it as a memorial. The decision to preserve ruins rather than rebuild creates something more powerful. Nature reclaims the structure slowly, while history echoes through the empty spaces. Some scars become sacred ground. At number 7, we've got natural wonders. Caesar's Head State Park features a rock formation that looks like Caesar's profile. The overlook provides views into 4 states on clear days. Hikers trek to see the geological coincidence that created a face. The rock became an icon, and the surrounding park protects mountain wilderness. Nature accidentally carved something remarkable. The park attracts people seeking waterfalls, trails, and spectacular views. Standing at Caesar's Head overlook feels like being on top of the world. The rock formation gives the place identity, but the natural beauty holds people there. South Carolina's mountains get overlooked by tourists, focused on beaches. The upstate offers completely different landscape, worth exploring. Number 6 brings us to ghostly romance. The ghost of Alice Flagg haunts the Hermitage in Murrells Inlet. Legend says she died of illness and heartbreak as a teenager in 1849. Her spirit supposedly still wanders the property. People leave rings on her grave, seeking her blessing. The tragic love story became paranormal legend. Alice's brother disapproved of her romance with a poor man, and the stress supposedly contributed to her death. Visitors report seeing a young woman in white wandering the grounds. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the story endures because love and loss are universal. Alice Flagg represents every doomed romance, and the graves people still visit seeking connection. At number 5, we face nature's fury. South Carolina was hit by Category 4 or stronger hurricanes at least 5 times. Hurricane Hugo in 1989 devastated the coast with winds over 140 miles per hour. The storm surge flooded communities and wind destroyed everything. Rebuilding took years, and some places never fully recovered. Living on the South Carolina coast means accepting hurricane risk. The question isn't if a major storm hits, but when. Each hurricane season brings anxiety and preparation. Residents board up windows and evacuate or hunker down. The coast's beauty comes with the price of potential destruction. Hugo reminded everyone that nature always wins. Coming in at number 4 is serious haunting. The Battery in Charleston is one of America's most haunted locations, with dozens of documented ghosts. The seawall and mansions overlook the harbor where so much history happened. Ghost tours point out spirits of Civil War soldiers, plague victims, and murdered pirates. The concentration of paranormal activity draws investigators and skeptics. Centuries of death, war, and tragedy created layers of ghost stories. People report seeing apparitions, hearing voices, and feeling cold spots. Whether supernatural or psychological, the Battery carries heavy energy. Charleston's beauty can't erase the violence and suffering that occurred here. The ghosts are reminders that history has weight, and some places never forget. At number 3, we confront the most painful truth. Approximately 60% of enslaved Africans who entered North America came through Charleston. It was the Ellis Island of the slave trade. More human beings were bought and sold here than anywhere else. The wealth, architecture, and culture of Charleston are built on this foundation of unimaginable cruelty. Families were torn apart on Charleston's docks. People were inspected, sold, and shipped to plantations. The systematic dehumanization happened at industrial scale. Charleston's prosperity depended entirely on this evil trade. Today, the city struggles with how to acknowledge this history while celebrating its beauty. The contradiction remains uncomfortable and necessary to confront. Number 2 celebrates natural assets. South Carolina has more than 350 miles of coastline, over 40 barrier islands, and some of America's best beaches. The variety ranges from developed resort areas to pristine wilderness. Each island and beach section offers different experiences. The coast defines South Carolina identity and economy. The barrier islands protect the mainland from storms while providing habitat for wildlife. Beaches attract millions, generating billions in tourism revenue. Some islands remain wild while others are completely developed. The coastline represents both natural treasure and economic engine. South Carolina's future is tied to protecting these beaches while allowing access. At number 1, we arrive at the ultimate truth. South Carolina's motto should be first in secession. They were first to secede from the Union. First shots of the Civil War were fired here. The state has been first in controversy ever since. South Carolina sets the tone for rebellion, resistance, and going its own way. Being first in secession is nothing to celebrate, but it defines the state's identity. South Carolina makes bold moves and faces consequences. The independent streak runs deep through culture and politics. Whether that stubbornness serves them well depends on the issue. But you can't deny South Carolina does things its own way, for better or worse.